back to the Stick 'em Up podcast. Burundi, the season is winding down, and honestly, some of the playoff races have almost gotten less interesting. They're a lot of them are good, but I don't know. I feel like over in the West, especially, it's really kind of widened a bit.
Yeah, it kind of happened pretty quickly. I mean, Vegas started to go on a winning streak, and as they did that, Calgary kept losing, Seattle kept losing, which we kind of knew they were, not really the content teams, but even St. Louis, and then what Minnesota did last week, they gave Vegas 2 points there instead of trying to fight tooth and nail to get that extra point. It's really kind of widened now in LA. I mean, we were just talking about them before we started recording here, that the new defensive way they're playing is really impressive, and that's winning them a lot of games to the point where it's only 5 points, but LA probably wins tonight against San Jose. So then LA goes up to 9, and then it's now a 4-point gap. And the bottom wildcard team would be Nashville, and there's no way Nashville's fallen out of a playoff spot now. So I think the West, I think this is I personally believe that we already know that these are our 8 teams in the playoffs for the West. And it's just a matter really now of where do some of these teams finish, because there is a couple, areas where some teams can still jump over each other. So I don't know what the matchups will be, but I'm pretty confident that these are the 8 teams.
Yeah, and the I don't see the Preds falling out, but at the same time, the Blues are 7-2-1 in their last 10, and the Preds are on a 3-game losing streak. Now, you can lose 3 games when you won, 16 of their last 18 before those 3 games, but if that 3 turns into a 6 or a 7, St. Louis Blues win a couple more.
If it's also actually worth noting, Nashville is currently beating St. Louis 4-2 with 12 minutes left in the third period right now.
You know what? So, and those two teams face each other. That's the nail in the coffin.
Yeah, assuming Nashville wins that, they're at 92. So LA, even if with a win, so assuming Nashville wins, assuming LA wins, St. Louis would be sitting 7 back of the Kings.
Maybe we'll take a look.
What I don't know. 7.
We'll take a look at those standings again near the end of the podcast, and we'll see if some of those games have ended and what's changed there. Because if the Kings win tonight and the Preds beat the Blues directly, like that's pretty much it.
Yeah, I do agree with that. But yeah, we'll kind of go back and look at the playoffs a bit more near the end when some more of the games are finished, kind of what we're working with. Where do we want to start on our list here of what we want to discuss? Well, it's a lot of milestones.
Yeah,
for the most
we've got
part.
quite
That's
a
really
few
kind of
bullet points, but it's a lot of milestones. One that I'm just going to talk about right away while it's on my brain is a couple days ago. We are recording this on April 4th, on the Thursday. A couple days ago, so probably, let's say Monday, I think it was. I was just kind of scrolling around, looking at hockey stats, and I noticed that Steven Stamkos was at the time tied with Maurice Richard for 32nd all-time in NHL goals with 544. And then I kept scrolling and saw that Austin Matthews was currently tied with Henry Richard at 146th all-time in NHL goals with 358. And I feel like Matthews and Stamkos have had rather similar careers, at least as far as they've gone. Obviously there's the connection of them both being 60 goal scorers at one point in time. And I thought it was interesting that I just picked a day to decide to look at the all-time goals list, and they were both tied with incredibly famous Richards, famous hockey players. So I thought that was cool. Since earlier in the week when I looked at that, I'm pretty sure Matthews and Stamkos have both scored like 3 or 4 goals. So
yeah, they've both been scoring the last couple games now.
They've both passed those respective guys at this point, but they goal scorers score, and it's interesting to see them climb up the all-time ranks, which we will be talking about later on.
Yep. Yeah, I totally agree. Yeah, it's kind of cool when you're just kind of looking up stats like that, and it just kind of happens like that. Like actually, I don't normally like look at players. Like I kind of somewhat every now and then will look at players cards, like their projections and advanced stats and whatnot.
Right.
So earlier today, one of the bigger news this morning in the league was that the San Jose Sharks signed forward Colin Graf, who is he's a 21-year-old, but he was one of the top NCAA college free agents that kind of happen at the end of every year. You've got those guys that didn't get drafted and then just continued to play their way through and develop in the college system to the point where then they've got teams all over the league trying to sign them. And so I don't really look at cards much, but I want to look up his card because I don't really,
you got an exciting new prospect. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and up in Canada, we don't, I haven't really heard of him much until this season. So I didn't really know much about him. But I go and look him up, and it shows like some advanced stats and like skill rankings, and then their projection to be like a full-time NHLer and a projection of being like a star in the league, which I think it kind of varies on them. Someone's like, they're a regular 80-point guy or a regular, 40 and 40 guy or something like that. And the last thing is NHL comparables, which NHL players, past and present, is this guy most similar to? And the number one player was actually Mike Greer, which I think is actually quite funny that out of all the players,
I wonder if it said that before he got signed by the Sharks. I wonder if they made a new one and like changed that, because that's pretty good coincidence. That's pretty funny.
Yeah, I'm not too sure because again, I didn't really recognize this card because there's all these different guys and stuff that do it all their own way. So it's probably varying on him. Maybe it's just the one I saw, but that's pretty cool that the GM that signed him ends up kind of being the guy he's projected to be the most similar to, if he makes it in the NHL. That is.
Yeah, I was definitely expecting you to say, a Joe Pavelski, a San Jose great. I was not expecting the current GM.
Yeah, it's not very often you see guys, and it's who are they most comparable to? Mike Greer's not a name that would normally be thrown out there and for comparison's sake, but
yeah, that's interesting. And I have heard since that signing that he looks like he's going to be really good. Apparently, there were quite a few teams trying to get him, so hopefully that turns out to be a good get for San Jose. Do you know where he plays currently?
Yes, I do. It was search. I can't remember actually now. I'm trying to remember, but
it's was it a university?
I know they're yeah. I can't remember where it is, but I'm pretty sure they were their team name is the Bobcats, but I can't quite remember where off the top of my head.
Right.
But it also sounds like there's quite a few other pretty big college players that are now looking to go to the NHL. And it sounds like there's going to be a couple more signings over the next couple of days. So it'll be interesting to see, which teams get these guys, because there's the big argument. Like a lot of people are, because there's rumors that I guess Boston was one of the teams in on Graf, and a lot of people are like, well, why wouldn't you want to go to Boston and go on a cup run, have a chance at a cup? And it's like, well, you can view it from two lenses. Yeah, he could go to Boston and be a healthy scratch, maybe a fourth liner, and probably not play in the playoffs, because it just doesn't make sense. Or would he rather go to San Jose where he can immediately slot into the lineup? Honestly, he'll probably play first or second line for the remainder of the season, and then he's got a better chance of being a full-time NHLer next year and getting lots of minutes. So
he's going to be playing for the end of this year here. He's not They're not like signing him as a prospect. They're signing him like they want him to come in right away.
Yeah, they signed him to a 3-year entry-level deal, and they've already said he's just going to come and join the Sharks for the remainder of the season, and it will burn the first year, like, because he just signed a 3-year entry-level deal, but the first year will be burned by the end of this year, so he'd have 2 years.
Yeah, assuming they play him for the the minimum amount for that.
No,
which is what,
no, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter.
Is that his case, or did they change that rule?
I think it kind of depends. Like, it kind of varies with these younger, with these college free agents when they come out. Like, I know there's been other cases where, teams have drafted a player, they've gone on to play, go back to school at the college level, and then they would sign at the end of their season, because their season wraps up, around this time for most teams, unless you're, your team's going for the national championship. But yeah, no, if you signed like near the end of the season and play out the remainder of the season, yeah, it just wipes away 1 year of like the first year of that deal.
Oh, okay.
So I don't know exactly why it is that way, but
they probably got some reason for it. The union probably fought for it. The NHLPA probably fought for it for some reason. I guess because they want to burn that entry level deal so that they can start getting the guys making more money.
Yeah, I think it's if you're like if we're under contract before the season starts, then I think it's like that 9-game rule. But yeah, I think it's if like you're a college free agent like this and you sign mid-season, then you don't get that. It's like if you play in the NHL, yeah, that counts. If they sent him just straight to the AHL and he just played there, then like that wouldn't matter. Then it would be a full 3 years after this one.
Yeah.
And that was and so that probably shows that was important to him to play in the NHL.
Yeah, I got to imagine he's, if he's getting picked up by him, he probably wants to get in there as soon as possible. I do also have it pulled up here. Looks like he played for the University of Quinnipiac.
Yes, yeah.
I'm probably mispronouncing that, but it.
Yeah, I don't know how to pronounce that one either. Honestly,
I guess it was in the NCAA. I was gonna say it looks like a name that would probably be in the QMJHL, but no.
Yeah, there is one in the QMJHL that's very similar to that, I think, isn't there? I'm pretty sure that there is, or at least somewhat in the same kind of pronunciation of it.
Yeah. He was a top 10 finalist for the Hobey Baker Award 2 seasons straight.
Yeah, and I know the 3 finalists for the Hobey Baker this year is, I can't remember if his first name is, I think it's Jackson Blake, which he is a Carolina Hurricanes prospect, and obviously Macklin Celebrini, and then Cutter Gauthier. Not a Philadelphia Flyers prospect, in fact, a Anaheim Ducks prospect.
A Ducks prospect. And yes, that other one is Jackson Blake.
It is Jackson Blake.
Yeah.
Which he's had a phenomenal season. Man, it seems like Carolina, man, the amount of studs that they find in the the second, third, fourth round, it's like they've gotten a lot of studs over the last little bit in those later rounds there.
Yeah, it feels like they're one of those teams. It's only a matter of time before they win the cup. Like they just have
could be this year.
Just a plethora of insane talent, and they're still bringing in more guys. Like they'll bring in a Max Pacioretty, a Jake Gensel. Like eventually it feels like the dam is gonna burst and they're gonna win. But not even teams that are really good, eventually the cap comes for us all, age comes for us all, and not every team ends up winning it. So hopefully,
I know that.
We'll see if we can put I didn't want to say it too specifically, but Sharks fans know that all too well for sure.
Speaking of drafts, I also have another fun stat that I'm sure Oilers fans and Red Wings fans won't like. So these are a couple different stats. So the first one is that 74% of NHL first round draft picks go on to become NHLers, like kind of like full time, or at least, hit the 200 plus kind of mark.
Right.
Ken Holland's total draft picks on Edmonton's roster is 0%. Currently on their roster. And then percentage of Ken Holland's total draft picks currently playing in the NHL since 2014 is 7.6%.
Jeez.
So, and that's not totally on Ken Holland. Obviously, it's the group he's that works with him, that he's been with, and
and all his scouts
in Detroit and now Edmonton. But it's like, man,
yeah, that's over the multiple teams too.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. That's a long time to go without. That's not great.
Especially when you're the GM and, of trying to,
Did
get McDavid outside
it's 0% with the firsts?
Let me pull back up here. So his total draft picks that are currently on Edmonton's roster, 0%. So Edmonton doesn't have a player.
Okay, that is just with Edmonton.
Currently that he drafted.
Still, he's been there for long enough.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's bad.
At that point, just keep trading away all your draft picks for current players at that rate now.
Yeah, if at the very least, if you know that you're not good at drafting, you have to do one of two things. Either trade those draft picks that are useless for you for good players, or you have to revamp your scouting team and your development team, because something's not working, and you gotta, you just passively get that value each year of just getting the draft picks. You just have them. You need to turn that into, at the very least, what those picks are worth, if not more value.
Yeah, well, and I mean,
you have to get something for it.
The thing that always comes back to me with Ken Holland was the 2018 draft when Detroit had the number 6 pick, and all the entire time leading up to the draft, it was kind of seemed like Detroit was still kind of going through this rebuild. It was tough times for them, considering the incredible run they went on for as long as they did. And they have the 6th pick. It comes to number 6, and who is available still is Michigan defenseman Quinn Hughes. And everybody thought that was like a match made him. Every single mock draft had Quinn Hughes going to Detroit. And instead, because he was still available and they didn't think he was going to be available at 6, Detroit ended up taking Philip Zadina instead, which we obviously know how that worked out. But it's like, if you Detroit now, if they had Quinn Hughes instead there, especially, with him on the left and Sider on the right.
Oh, that would be brutal.
If you thought
I think their styles would match well too.
Yeah, if you think Hughes and Hronek are good, Hughes and Sider would be on another level.
Or they also had Hronek.
They did have Hronek.
So they could.
Maybe they don't even trade him.
They could have had Hronek and Hughes, and then they could have Sider and somebody else on their second D line. Yeah. On their pairing. That could have been insane. That would have changed the franchise.
Yeah, so I mean, Ken Holland's not a guy you ever want drafting for you at any point.
And that just goes back to what we've said before. I really think there's something to drafting guys from that area that are most likely going to want to play for your team.
Yeah.
Well, we should probably start getting through some of these milestones, because there are quite a few of them.
Yeah, there is actually quite a few that have piled up. Before we do that, there's a big extension I know you wanted to talk about.
Oh, yeah.
When it kind of changed up the league, maybe the way that we see contracts.
This is going to affect the salary cap going forward.
Yeah.
So for those of you who haven't been living under an absolute rock, Simone Benoit signed a 3-year extension with the Toronto Maple Leafs for a 1.35 mil AAV over that time. Huge.
That's actually kind of a game breaker right there. Like that really that changes Toronto hockey. No, but honestly, all in all, like that's a very solid price for a bottom pairing guy who, um,
For 3 years. If he gets
yeah,
any better, this contract's gonna look fantastic. If this dude gets healthy scratched for the next 2 years, that hardly hurts you. It hurts Toronto a bit more than normal teams because of course they got the big guys up front making so much money, but I think that's still a very low risk and a really high upside contract if he can improve it all. It's certainly
yeah.
no Ryan Reeves contract.
Yeah, no, and this one kind of reminds me of the other Toronto deal that was signed not too long ago, the Bobby McMahon deal. Again,
Yeah.
another guy that like I know Leafs fans act like he's the next great thing, but like, is he realistically a top 6 player? No. Is he a bottom 6 player? Yeah, probably more of a I mean, he can slot in on the third line if need be. But again, it's another guy that they kind of found and just brought him and gave him a chance, and he just another guy who works his ass off and got rewarded with a deal that I think is fair to him, because I don't think 2 years ago he was playing on the Newfoundland Growlers, who don't even exist anymore, unfortunately. Now
just closed their doors earlier this week.
Yeah, to now he's making millions of dollars in the NHL. So, and it's a team friendly deal for Toronto because like we said, they need those team friendly deals with their big contracts, especially Nylander's kicking in this summer.
Yeah. Do you have any? Are you seeing any names particularly on here that you want to talk about?
Yeah, I think 2 kind of stand out to me. The first one is Jamie Benn reaching 900 career points. I mean, it's still, in my opinion, one of the more underrated guys in the league. I know, a lot of people aren't as high on him anymore because, I mean, his contract obviously isn't great. But the bounce back he was, able to have the last couple years, and has really been a big part of Wyatt Johnston's success in Dallas, which was worth pointing out because Wyatt Johnston actually is joining a very elite club. So this is every 20-year-old in the salary cap era who hit 30 plus goals. So, at 20 years old, these are the only players in the cap era who hit 30 plus goals in a season.
Right.
Ovechkin, Matthews, Crosby, Pasternak, Sean Monahan, McDavid, Malkin, Laine, Kopitar, Evander Kane, not Patrick Kane, Bergeron, Taves, and Stamkos. And now Wyatt Johnston's a part of that group.
That's a who's who of Hall of Famers.
Like, yeah, that's yeah. Well, and probably Evander Kane.
Yeah. That's a lot of elite players.
But I mean, Wyatt Johnson wouldn't be where he is without a guy like Jamie Benn, who is again, people don't talk about much because his contract's bad, but he's still producing very well. He's like terrific with these young guys. So
people love
good on Jamie Benn. Like 900 points is not easy. It is not easy.
And people love to dunk on him because he won the Art Ross the year where he won it with, what was it, 85 points?
Yeah, it wasn't much.
Which seems wild when you're looking at the stats today. But at the same time, Crosby was playing then, Kane was playing then, and none of those guys scored more points than him that year. So scoring was clearly down, and he was still the best scorer that year.
Yeah, if he found a way.
You don't accidentally win the Art Ross.
Exactly, right? And that's my thing always when people say, I'm like, it's like you have to be the best in the league. Like, it's sure he didn't put up a lot of points, but nobody else did either. Like, it should be more on, hey, why didn't Crosby beat him or Ovechkin? Like,
he clearly worked for those points pretty damn hard because they were not coming easy that year for anybody.
And then the other one, I guess I can kind of lump these two together because it is the same milestone. But John Carlson, of the Washington Capitals and Jeff Skinner of the Buffalo Sabres. Both recently played in their 1,000th NHL game. This is pretty impressive. We're kind of seeing the next coming of Ron Hainsey here, as Jeff Skinner has now played 1,000 games in the NHL, but is yet to play a single playoff game, and that will obviously continue going into next season now.
Yeah, and I do see him being a part of the future in Buffalo. So I do hope Buffalo eventually here breaks through and makes the playoffs.
They got it, right?
If it doesn't look like they're going to in the next 1 or 2 years, I really hope that they trade Skinner to a playoff team and he can have that opportunity.
I hope they do right by him and give him a chance.
That's so long without. He hasn't even gotten swept in the first round. Like he hasn't even sniffed the playoffs and then got knocked out, which is the case for the majority of the players in the NHL, really. But just never even getting to feel the electricity in the crowd on those playoff games. That it would be a crime if he were to hang them up at some point without ever playing a playoff game.
Yeah, well, and like Ron Hainsey, he played, I think it was like 950 some games without ever playing in the playoffs. Like a great, defenseman. And just, he was on Montreal when they were bad. Then he was on Columbus, Atlanta, Winnipeg, Carolina when they were still bad. And he just could never get to the playoffs. And then 2017 at the deadline, Carolina, does right by him for what he's done for many years for them, sends him to Pittsburgh. And he goes on to play 25 games with the Penguins in the playoffs. And his first playoff experience is winning a Stanley Cup, basically. So there's still hope for Jeff Skinner. I hope it's in Buffalo, but if it's not, I'm sure he'll end up on a playoff contender and at least get a chance to.
And we've seen that he's a guy who can produce points. For all we know, he's a Justin Williams type. He's a Logie Couture type, a guy who really elevates their game in the playoffs. We've just might have gone 1,000 games without being able to see it.
Yeah.
Like he might be a guy who scores at like 1.3 points per game in the playoffs. Yeah. But we just haven't seen it yet. So
he'll get there. He'll get there at some point. Yeah. It's just, where is he when it happens and when is it?
I do think there's a very good chance it'll be in Buffalo if they can can put their stuff together next year. But
you think Buffalo can make it next year?
I definitely think they can. I do. If we get elite Tage Thompson, if Dahlin progresses, if Owen Power progresses, also Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen, if he can keep going, I definitely think it's possible. Really depends on, are some of these older teams going to drop out in the Metro? In the East, even just the Islanders, the Capitals. A lot of these teams that are currently fighting for a playoff spot that Buffalo's just a bit below.
Well, and that's the thing. Like, Buffalo's kind of making their climb, back up the mountain now from being at the bottom, and a lot of the teams that they should be passing and seeing them on their way down aren't going down. Like Philly should be down near the bottom. They should not be in a playoff spot right now. Buffalo, I thought, would honestly be higher than both Pittsburgh and Washington. They're not. And again, Pittsburgh and Washington are kind of trending down a bit, but they're still hanging on. And then even Boston. I kind of thought, when Chara was gone and then Bergeron and Krejci, I thought, like, okay, if Boston's due eventually
and Krejci retiring, I thought that was going to gut their team. I thought they were going to suck this year.
So it's like Buffalo's climbing that mountain, but all the guys at the top are, even the Islanders, actually, I thought were kind of going to have to go through a retool rebuild thing. So it's like Buffalo's going up, but it's just no one's coming down to make room for Buffalo, unfortunately. Which I think does change next year, though.
Yeah, but at the same time, it's kind of a league where you can't rely on other people, because as soon as as soon as the Flyers come back down to earth, the Devils are going to be right up in that spot. Like you have to make your own room in the league right now, because there are so many good teams. I feel like I've never watched hockey and seen this many teams play at an elite level at the same time. Like,
Yeah.
just looking at the list of teams here and looking at the standings, like there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. At first glance, at least 11 elite teams, I would say, in the league that are all like, I would not be shocked if any one of them won the cup this year. Like,
Yeah.
there's a lot of really good hockey teams right now, so it's tough to make it.
And the Atlantic Division is a pretty tough one. Like if you're Buffalo, you're kind of still having to just fight for a wild card spot to even make it. Like because it's pretty top end heavy in the Atlantic division, but could change next year for Buffalo. You never know.
Yeah. We've got a couple other ones here. But yeah, congrats to John Carlson and Jeff Skinner once again for the
John Carlson, because we kind of just brushed over him, but yeah, John Carlson as well. I mean, like, you don't even need to say anything about him. He's made a great career for himself.
Just been crushing it on the blue line for what is it, 14, 15 years over in Washington?
1,000 games. That's all I know.
Yeah, something like that.
We do have a couple other milestones. I'll let you take the reins on some of these.
Yeah, so Anze Kopitar of the LA Kings has moved into 50th all time for points in the NHL. So he's finally in that proper top tier of NHL players in history. Top 50 all time.
I feel like we've talked about him like a lot this season when it came to milestones.
Yeah,
I feel like he was a really reoccurring.
Yeah, just looking at him on the on my screen, it feels like I'm getting a little deja vu. I've seen his name here written out a couple times.
Like that's incredible that like 50th all time. I didn't even think he was. I thought he was probably still back in around 100 or something. I didn't realize he was creeping up on 50 all time, and now he's in there. That's really impressive. That's great for
especially
hockey
winning
in Slovenia.
Especially winning, a handful of Selke trophies as well.
Yep, Stanley Cups on top of that.
2 Stanley Cups, 2 Selkes, 2 Lady Bings.
2 Lady Bings, wow.
Messier Award, yeah, 1 being last year.
I mean, got to be first ballot Hall of Famer, right?
You know what?
It has to be.
I would say yes, but I feel like there's so many players in the league right now that people are saying are first ballot Hall of Famers to the point where it's like, we can only have one. I guess first.
It's like when you're 50th all time, like because there's not many active guys in that.
For some reason, I was thinking
area.
that you could only have one first ballot Hall of Famer every year, but I guess it's just going into the Hall of Fame the first year you're eligible.
Yeah,
it's not being like the first guy, like the guy with the most votes or something each year.
Yeah,
but yeah, he's at 1,207 points right now. He's 66 points in 75 games this year, not including whatever he does tonight versus the Sharks. So yeah, insanely solid career. 92 points in 17-18.
Yeah, when you everybody, he's one of those guys again that kind of talks, when you talk about him, you still kind of, the first thing everybody says with Kopitar is like, great two-way player, great in his own end, Selke guy. But when you've got a guy that you're talking about for the Selke every year and he drops 92 points, that's on a Bergeron level. So if you're saying Bergeron's a first ballot, Kopitar has to be.
Yeah, and he won 2 of those Selkes in 15-16 and 17-18. He won those competing directly with Bergeron.
It's like Bergeron in his prime almost.
Yeah.
Or kind of later in his prime. Yeah.
So he's definitely earned it. And congrats to him for cracking the top 50 all time.
Yeah. I guess our next one here kind of ties in the 2 teams we were just kind of talking about here.
Yeah, actually. Jonathan Quick passes Ryan Miller for most wins for a U.S.-born goalie in NHL history. He did that with 392 wins. Great for Jonathan Quick. It's too bad he couldn't get that with LA, but I don't think he minds too much. He got a little extra cup ring out of it.
Well, and he's also the Rangers were his childhood team, so to hit this, milestone, kind of playing for your team that you kind of grew up cheering for, I think is pretty. That's got to be a pretty cool feeling as well, though.
Yeah, he's only ever really played in like the best markets in the States, right?
Yeah.
He played for years in Los Angeles, of all places.
Got to skip Columbus.
Yeah, skipped Columbus. Went to collect a free cup over in Las Vegas. And then he goes to New York and plays for the Rangers.
He's got an extension there now, so he's locked in probably for the remainder of his career.
Yeah.
Like 3 of the biggest hockey markets.
And he said,
good on him, though.
Ship me out, Columbus. No, thank you.
Yeah. I'm honestly good. I'm kind of glad he did dodge that bullet.
I love
he would have got thrown
Columbus,
in there to just get
Columbus put
around.
up the yeah. He's not really playing to win too much there,
and that's good on Columbus also doing right by the player as well. Like knowing, like, hey man, we're shit. We don't want you to just come here and be a loser for the rest of the season. Well, if another team wants you, we'll send you there, and it ended up being Vegas, and Vegas went on to win a cup. So.
And Columbus had a lot of really funny stuff as well. They did a whole in his first game back there. He played. They played a pretty funny tribute video of clips of him playing in LA because he didn't play in Columbus.
Oh, did they?
So that was pretty.
Oh,
good.
that's actually pretty good. I didn't even know about that.
Yeah.
Good on Columbus though, man. That's good stuff.
We got a couple other ones here. Earlier tonight, Brad Marchand hit 400 career goals.
400.
400. He is not a guy I thought would hit 400 career goals. He hasn't been elite all his career. He seems like an assist guy more than a goal guy. Like 800, 900, 1,000 points eventually. Sure, but I didn't think he was going to hit 400 career goals, so good for him.
Yeah, not only that, I mean, I like, where he's at in his career, I think he's still got a lot of gas left in the tank. I think especially when, kind of Chara was done in Boston, then Bergeron finally gets to see, unfortunately, just because Chara was there for so long, he couldn't have it for that long. I think with Marchand getting it, I don't think it's a short-term thing. I think Marchand's the type of guy to go until he can't. And so I think there's a very, very good chance that Marchand ends up hitting 500. I think I'd be shocked if Marchand doesn't hit 500 by the end of his career.
Yeah, I think he probably ends around 500, give or take 20 on either side. When you think about the Bruins from 2008 to 2014, who do you think of?
From when, sorry?
Like around 2008 to 2014, that sort of era.
I mean, like obviously Crosby, Taves, Kane.
Oh, sorry, on the Bruins.
Oh, on the Bruins. It's like off the top of my head. I mean, I can't think of just off the top of my head.
I feel like
I'm just kind of blanking.
The popular answer would probably be Chara, but
yeah, I guess
and he's been the captain there for so long. But I've always thought of it as Bergeron's team. Like even before Chara declined and before he left, I always felt like that was Bergeron. Always felt like he should be the captain.
So that's kind of where I felt like it was always kind of like, they did have other kind of, guys that have continued to be talked about as great leaders, like, the Rich Peverleys and the Nathan Hortons and, even David Krejci, Lucic when he was kind of coming up. And then, I mean, Char had the C, but it was always kind of like when you talked about the Bruins, even kind of after those years in the the later years of their careers, it would always just kind of felt like, the Bruins. It's led by Bergeron. The charge is Bergeron. Like, it's, even though he didn't have the C, he was like the poster boy for what Bruins hockey was throughout his career.
So that's how I felt, but I feel like majority of people would say Chara is kind of the poster boy of, this is Bruins hockey, and
which I mean I get that.
It's not
I don't
wrong.
disagree
I mean,
with
Zdeno
it.
Chara, he's
arguably
also a first ballot Hall of Famer. So
well,
it's hard to take much away from him, but
to a cup.
Yeah, and he was clearly very effective as a captain.
We have a little bit of breaking news. Another milestone, actually. LA Kings forward Akil Thomas just recorded his first NHL goal. So congrats to Thomas there. And we now know that the Winnipeg Jets beat the Calgary Flames, which I believe that means Winnipeg is now clinched and Calgary is now eliminated from playoff contention, if I'm not mistaken. And then Colorado just beat Minnesota, which really kind of the nail in the coffin for Minnesota. And Nashville beat St. Louis, which could potentially be the nail in the coffin for the Blues, as that puts the Blues now back on the Preds by 8 points, and then the Kings,
and they've got 6 games remaining. So
and then the Wild
Kings
are
and the
10
Preds win
now.
2 games, they clinch.
Yeah,
coming down to it, getting to that point.
I think the West is kind of sealed up after those games now. Yeah, because those were some big ones.
It's really just watching at this point who's going to get that Metro 3 spot, and the Wild Card 2 in the East are pretty much the only spots being fought for left that really have a chance to change.
Yeah. With that, what else? Oh, Shane Wright. I see we have here Shane Wright. Obviously, he scored his first NHL goal since November.
First game coming
against first game since being called up against the Sharks. He looked good. And I don't think, again, it's. I feel bad for Shane Wright, first of all, because it's obviously got to be tough when you're, the whole build up to the draft, like all year long is like, it's like, Shane Wright going number 1. He's the next great Canadian, player, like not playing for the Canadians, just a Canadian in general. And it gets to the draft and it's like, we think he's still going number 1, but there's a chance maybe he doesn't now. And then he doesn't go 1, he doesn't go 2, he doesn't go 3, he goes 4. And then,
which was wild at the time. I had not heard anything. I heard the very slight rumor that he might not go first, but everyone was like, hey, then he's going second. Yeah. And then all of a sudden he went to 4th, and it was wild.
Yeah. And then not only that, then he gets drafted and he doesn't jump into the NHL right away, which a lot of 4th overall picks don't. A lot of top, 3, some 2s don't play their first year. And then, second year is a bit of a struggle. But it's like when you look at so many guys who, didn't reach their potential. And I think a big part of it is because they were thrown into a tough situation, instead of allowing them to develop. Like if you got thrown onto at the time was kind of a rough Seattle Kraken team. Like this is before they made the playoffs and took out Colorado. I don't think that does him a whole lot of good to log 12 minutes a night, getting bullied around and losing every game, where he can go dominate juniors and, win games and continue to get better. So I like what Seattle's doing with him. And I hope this is the start of Shane Wright, really kind of putting it together on a consistent basis in the NHL now.
Yeah, for sure. And I definitely think that, him being drafted during, I believe he was drafted during COVID when stuff was still going on with that. But
no, I think it was in person when he got drafted. I think everything was back to normal. I think it was like the first back to normal draft.
I was going to say either it was right then, during, or right after, but also, so he went in a lot of very important developmental years just before he was drafted. he was dealing with all that crap. So,
Yeah,
you
that
know,
is true.
I think we're going to see a lot of guys from that era that were really highly touted that maybe they don't quite reach that spot. Maybe they don't reach the show at all because, it's the best league in the world and every inch matters. And if your whole training and, getting better regimen is fucked up for, a year and a half, 2 years, because everything was messed up, then it can really make it tough. So I definitely think there's part of that. I think a lot of that happened with Alexis Lafreniere as well, who's finally starting to put things together. Not quite looking like the guy we thought he would, but he's still young. He's picking it up.
And
And
that's
I'm hoping to see a lot of those guys turn it around.
Yeah, well, that's the crazy thing. Like you mentioned with those COVID years, right? The 20. I want to say I might have been like the 2021 draft. I think it was. You're or maybe in 2020. I'm not entirely sure, but you're seeing guys, some of the better prospects in the league now who are now playing in the NHL at a full-time level, and they're doing really good. Like guys like Logan Stankoven with Dallas, Olin Zellweger with Anaheim. Those were guys that were taken in the second round plus. Like you're seeing a lot of these guys where, because of the COVID year, and a lot of them barely got to play and showcase their playing ability during their draft year, to the point where these guys were probably normally going to be, first round pick players, but teams weren't able to see what they're capable of because of all of this, and they fall to these later rounds, and now they're really, they're starting to break through and show what they're capable of, and they look like they should have been, first round players. So it's so weird looking back on those COVID years in the drafts, because like you said, it really messed it up, not only for the players, but the teams as well.
You couldn't have scouts watching a lot of the games.
Yeah.
Like it made the draft really weird for a lot of people.
Yeah. Which is why, when I kind of look back at those drafts, I don't, if I see a team that made a bad pick or missed, I'm kind of like, I mean, it's tough, obviously, but at the same time, it's like, it's just tough in those.
Normal.
Yeah, it's just tough in those situations because it didn't benefit anyone. It just hurt the players and the team. So it just made it that much more difficult for, all of these scouts and GMs when it came to the draft. They had to rely a lot on, previous footage and whatnot to make their decisions.
And, maybe during that time, more teams should have employed Tampa's strategy of just trading all your first round picks. Don't even worry about it.
Yeah.
Just get players. So when the next world shutdown happens, remember that strategy.
Yeah. Yeah.
Do we have any more milestones? We do have a record that was tied, and actually another record that was broken by one Sidney Crosby. Sidney Crosby tied Wayne Gretzky for most consecutive point per game seasons at 19.
Yeah.
Absolutely insane. He clinched that the other day by getting up to 82 or 83 points on the season. So even if he doesn't score for the rest of the year and plays every game, he will still get it.
Well, I think we talked about it last episode. I think at the time you said it was like Crosby needed like 5 points in his last 9 games.
Yeah.
And it was like 2 days later, it was like, or 3 days, like, Crosby's, tied Gretzky.
Been out of his mind lately. I think he actually has like 15 points in his last 4 games or something.
If Pittsburgh makes the playoffs, do you push a Crosby for Hart?
I don't think you can. With 3 guys, 2 guys have already hit 130 points on the year, and the other one's McDavid. So I don't think he can. You could push it to get him some votes, but I don't think he even makes it as a finalist. I think it's just too.
I don't think he does, but again, it's my thing is like if you're doing it based on what the Hart is, supposed to be, I think Crosby's got to get some consideration if Pittsburgh makes the playoffs, because I do believe that the Hart winner should be
6-2
on a playoff team.
The Penguins are getting a lot of points lately. 3-game win streak.
Yeah, and going back a couple games over the course of 6 games, Crosby put up 6 goals and 9 assists across a 6 game span. So that's obviously in somewhere there is when he tied Wayne Gretzky for this, because he went nuclear for a couple weeks there.
So, like we just said, Crosby tied with Gretzky for most consecutive point per game seasons. Crosby actually also broke a record held by Wayne Gretzky that is incredibly similar. Sidney Crosby now is the all-time leader for seasons of over a point per game at 19, breaking Wayne Gretzky's record of 18. Because if you look at the stats, there was one year, I believe either his last or second last year, Gretzky was exactly a point per game. He had 66 points in 66 games or something. So
yeah,
Crosby.
Wow.
So it's a bit pedantic, but Crosby does have the most consecutive over a point per game seasons.
Yeah, which that's actually a really impressive record to have to be. Have that many point per game seasons, and even just looking at where,
and even Gretzky for one of them, he got exactly even, right?
We've talked about Stamkos quite a bit with his injuries and where he'd be at in kind of the goal scoring race. Like Crosby would have broken and tied these records, a while ago if it wasn't for some of the injuries and concussions that he dealt with, kind of in the earlier stages of his career.
Yeah, like the amount of things he's done for the NHL is insane, considering that we've probably missed 250, 300 games of his career to injury.
Yeah.
Like he has 2 Hart trophies, I believe. He would probably have 3 or 4. Because
at least 3, I think.
At least 3, because I know the one year where he got I believe it was a concussion. I think it was, I want to say the 09-10 season, or maybe it was the 10-11 season. He was going absolutely nuclear for the first half of the season, and then at around 40 games in, he got injured, but he had 65 points or something like that. So he was on an insane pace, and they just, if you only play half the games in a year, you're not going to win.
Yeah.
It's really too bad he wasn't able to stay completely healthy throughout his career, but you know what? It's nice to see, guys like him and Stamkos, putting together long stretches of being healthy at the end, being able to come back from it and still, take their rightful place among some of the greats.
Yeah, I can completely agree there with you.
We got, looks like 2 or 3 more different records. The Dallas Stars the other day set a franchise record with their 8th straight win in a row. I don't remember the score, but I believe they won it in a shutout against McDavid and the Oilers.
Yeah, they did shut them out.
It was 6-0 or something like that.
5-0, I think. Yeah, 5-0.
Yeah, they hammered them. So, and they also, kept the entire Oilers, including McDavid and Draisaitl, to 0 points. So,
yeah, that seems low though.
Scary team.
8, a franchise record, 8 straight wins. Didn't Seattle do that earlier?
Seattle put up either 10 or 11.
It's just so weird that a team that's been around like us and how good they've been.
Yeah,
that just seems very low. That's
exactly what I thought of. Not only this, but also when Edmonton broke their record earlier this year.
Actually,
I think 9 games was the franchise record, and then they went to 16 or something.
Yeah,
but at the time, it was they set a new franchise record with 9 in a row or 10 in a row, and I was like, you guys know Wayne Gretzky played here for half a decade at least, right? What the hell?
Yeah.
How did Gretzky and the other 12 Hall of Famers he played with, how did they not put together 10 wins in a row? That was kind of crazy hearing about that. So, but good for the Stars, and they're on an absolute tear right now, and they are right
They're
now,
looking
to
good
me,
before the playoffs.
they're my favorite for the President's Trophy. I
Really?
think I think I think they're
I
gonna win
like
it
it
unless
though.
somebody takes it from them.
I like that. Yeah, I mean, like you said, they've been playing so good lately. Like it's, it's. I think again, it's kind of come down to a three-way race between them, the Bruins, and the Rangers. But yeah, I totally think Dallas is very capable of easily, kind of riding this high throughout the rest of the regular season and winning that President's Trophy.
Yeah,
They're the only team in the West that I think can do it at this point now.
yeah, yeah. I was really hoping for the Canucks, and I suppose they
Yeah,
might be able to if they win out the season, but
it would take a lot.
that would take a lot of wins in a row, and it would take the Stars, the Rangers, and the Bruins all losing at least 3 or 4 of their remaining, 7 or 8 games. So
Yeah,
probably
exactly. Yeah.
not. We got another one here. Nikita Kucherov passed Jaromir Jagr in 95-96 and himself in 18-19 for the most assists by a winger in a single season in NHL history. Those 2 seasons mentioned by himself and Jagr previously were both tied at 87. I have it written down that he has 88. After tonight, he now has 90. With 6 games to go in the season. The top 3 or the top 5 seasons in NHL history for assists by a winger, I actually looked it up the other day. 3 of them are Kucherov and the other 2 are Jagr.
Wow.
They are both right up there. As well as in that same game, Kucherov broke another one of his own records, the franchise record in Tampa Bay for most points in a single season. Previously, it was 128 points in that same 18-19 season. At this point, he has 133 points. And again, six games to go, and Tampa has one of the weaker schedules. Like there's a very good chance he hits 140.
I at this point, like, I would just be shocked if he doesn't win the Hart. I mean, we even talked about this morning how he's got a 50%. He's a part of 50% of every Tampa Bay goal by recording a point, and that's not even to mention all the other stuff he does to create other goals that he doesn't get a point on. It, like obviously McKinnon has had a great season. McDavid's had a great season, all things considered. Matthews has been scoring out of his mind. But like what Kucherov's doing it's so impressive. And I still believe that, without McDavid, I think Edmonton still finds a way into the playoffs.
I think they do. I think it's hard, but I think they get there.
Yeah, I think Colorado easy makes the playoffs without McKinnon. I think Toronto makes it without Matthews. I don't think Tampa makes the playoffs without Kucherov.
No.
Like he's the heart and soul of that
see
team.
the argument for Toronto
the
not making it without Matthews.
No, they would still make it, I think.
I think Matthews and Kucherov are really instrumental to both the teams, but I definitely agree with the other 2. I think
you don't think teams. Toronto would? I think they would still be able to carry that weight.
Without Matthews, Tampa's 2 points behind him right now, and they'd be in a wild card spot. Granted, they're 12 points up on the Islanders.
I guess the East is kind of a gong shot. I can
it's
see
hard to
it.
tell. It's hard to tell how many games a player wins, I suppose. But, I think it's closer with them at least than it is with McDavid or McKinnon. If those teams would fall out. But yeah, in my opinion, an insanely biased opinion, obviously, I do think Cooch should win the Hart Trophy. Just the way he's absolutely carried this team. Dude's gonna force Braden Point to have another 50-goal season, whether he likes it or not.
Yeah,
he's just putting everything together for this team. I believe after tonight he'll be, not by much, but very slightly above 50% in on all our goals scored this year. But yeah, he's been absolutely bonkers this year, and I genuinely have not a clue who's going to win the Hart Trophy. because every time it comes up anywhere on Reddit, on Twitter, when I'm talking to people, very consistently, all three guys have a lot of smoke around them. Like so many people think it's going to be McDavid. So many think it's going to be Cooch. So many think it's going to be McKinnon. And
Yeah.
I wonder if they've all got things going for him. Edmonton was right beside San Jose at the bottom of the league, and at Thanksgiving, like McDavid resurrected their corpse, and
Yeah.
at the same time, McKinnon, he's never won the trophy. Is he due? A lot of people think he's due, and he really deserves it, even if maybe he shouldn't get the trophy. We want him to have one eventually, and this is the year. And then everything we've said with Kucherov, and that's not even to mention Matthews, if he hits 65, maybe 70 goals on the season. Each guy has an incredible claim to it. Personally, I would go with Cooch, but I have no idea who's going to win it. And every time I see betting odds for it, I'm surprised that it's so heavily weighted towards McKinnon. It's usually 1.25 for McKinnon, and then 7 for Cooch, 8 for McDavid or something. They think he's a overwhelming favorite in their eyes.
Yeah. We do have a little bit of more breaking news. This is kind of some interesting news to come out this late in the day here.
Breaking news. We love it. We love it.
The Arizona Coyotes have announced their commitment to winning an upcoming auction that has been placed on June 27th for where they plan to build their new arena. And this coming with, they have already introduced a full kind of, little video and little breakdown of what their designs are for the arena. And they've already got all the plans and everything mapped out for it. All that's left is for them to go out and win this auction that's taking place on June 27th, which is kind of right around the draft. The draft is the draft actually might be on one of those 2 days, actually.
That would be so
funny. No, it's 1 day before the draft. 1 day before.
Wow.
So, and they've announced their commitment to going out there and winning it. They've got everything planned. So by June 27th, we'll kind of know. And I think this is it. I think this is, if they win it, obviously, yeah, they're staying in Arizona, done deal, hockey's staying there. I think if they lose this, they might be done. It might finally be that's it. If they can't go out there and win this to have their own, proper NHL arena, I think the NHL might finally be all right, we just can't do this any longer.
So people have been talking about the Coyotes getting arena for 5 years now, because it's been an issue for this long, which is in of itself insane. They have had ownership issues with stuff like this and finding a permanent home since 2010.
Yeah.
How is it acceptable for a team in your professional league, one of the supposed big four, at this point, it's looking a lot more like a big three and hockey. How can they allow this to continue? How has the league not seized control of the team and says, all right, just shut up, open your wallet, and we're going to get this shit done for you because this is embarrassing? Something has to give. They have 0 defensemen signed through to next year. And guess what? The Arizona Coyotes are not legally allowed to make contract offers until the summer. They haven't been given the green light by the NHL themselves to make contract offers on next year because their team is so up in the air. And they don't have anybody under contract. The best defenseman in free agency is literally just going to be their top 6. That's insane.
That could change if this deal lands, because then obviously it's a very, I don't know how it's all going. It's a very tight window this year where it's you've got the NHL draft on the 28th and 29th. That's round 1 is on the Friday. Round 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 is on the Saturday. Then the 30th, the Sunday, Monday, July 1st. That's the start of free agency. Usually there's like, a couple day span. There's like a 4-day span, a 5-day span, or something in between there. Like that's it. So really, if the deal lands, it's gonna be so much stuff going on for the Coyotes between, I think, then obviously the draft and then re-signing guys now that you're hopefully would have the green light, considering you've got an arena deal in place now. Like you're clearly not moving.
Yeah.
It could be that could be a hectic time for the Coyotes to really not only figure stuff out, but really like this is it now. It's like, all right, yeah, like, it's still going to suck because we're not going to have the arena right away. But this is now the time this is the Arizona Coyotes. We're not moving. It's time to really start building this team up. And when we have that new arena, like, it's just going to be sellout night after night after night. That's what you have to start building towards. Same way the Flames are kind of going through. I think they're looking more like a retool. So, when their new arena is done in whatever year it is, like it's going to be a packed house every night, and you're going to have a high quality, or the best quality team you can make at least out there when your new arena's up. And I think that's probably what would happen with the Coyotes if they win this auction, because they obviously still have to go out and finish the deal first.
Yeah, because this is for land, correct? This is not for a building. This is for land to build their building on. Yeah, and so they've been. How many auctions have they gone through to try and get land? Like they
I'm
had
not
the whole
100%
one.
sure.
They had the whole one over the past 2 years. They constantly said it's going to happen, it's going to work, and then at the end of the day, it was the people of Tempe voted on whether we want to allow the arena in, and they voted no. We don't want this loser franchise. Like, and if you are a Coyotes fan, God bless your heart for sticking with your team. Holy crap, because they have not done anything to deserve your admiration as a fan. And just know that if I ever see anyone wearing a Arizona, a Phoenix Coyotes bit of merchandise, you immediately have my respect. Just
especially like the red,
sheer willpower for it.
Especially the red, like little humpback Coyote one. Like if they're rocking one of those, like they're a real. Like I see a lot of people wearing their new jersey, but it's like, that's just especially an iconic jersey. Retro. Like that's just what jersey collectors do. But no, like if someone's wearing one of those older ones with that little humpback Coyote with the little stubby legs, like if you see someone wearing that, like personally, I think that logo is phenomenal. But like if you see someone wearing that, they're a diehard Coyotes fan. They would bleed for that team.
And
hopefully, I really hope they do it.
Yeah, everyone wants it to succeed. We're just, it's been so long, like I said, since 2010, they've been dealing with this shit. At this point, it's shit or get off the pot,
Yeah.
Everyone wants to see them succeed and get, at the very least, be an NHL franchise with a home arena.
Yeah.
And for some reason, they're just having so much trouble having that be a reality.
And I think hockey, I really do think hockey is huge in Arizona. I don't buy the whole, hockey just doesn't work in Arizona. People didn't think hockey was going to work in Nevada. I mean, obviously it's, Vegas is a completely different thing. But like the point being, people didn't think hockey would work there. Like it can work. They just have to make it work. They have to just get this new arena. Yeah. And just start, and then like they just really have to start putting out a quality team.
Yeah.
They have to just start going
between
all
their
in.
Team being so bad over the past decade plus, and also all the extracurricular garbage, like with, they're playing in front of 5,000 people still, for those who might have forgotten, still in Mullet Arena. Everyone else has at least 17,000 seats in their place usually. Like, it's just an embarrassment to the league, and it has nothing to do with the hockey market. The same way, at the very least, in my opinion, the Atlanta area is a great spot for a hockey team. They just also had horrible management and a not good on ice product, and so people stopped going to the games. So, people can deal with you being bad for a bit. We've seen it with plenty of teams. Detroit sucked for a good bit there. Colorado was really bad in that 16-17 era, right before they got good, and people stuck around because they knew this will get better. That's how it works. And some of these
Yeah.
teams, Buffaloes of the world, they just stay bad for a long time. And now they look like they're on the up. And I've never seen more Sabres fans in the league than the last 2 years.
Yeah. Yeah, actually.
Because they're fun to watch.
Yeah.
So hopefully we see some of that for the Coyotes in the next couple of years. And hopefully they do win that auction and they get at least
That'd be
one
huge.
defenseman signed onto their payroll for the next year.
Like, do you think if they win it, do you think they just do something just crazy at the draft? Do you think they just make a real big statement of like, nah, we're here, like we're not going, we're like that would be crazy. Like if they,
like they say it, or like with like a crazy trade.
Yeah, like something like that. Like to really make their mark of now we're going all in and we're gonna actually put out, the best team possible. We're not just gonna keep sucking, being like, okay, well, we'll draft and we'll be good next year. And then it's the same cycle. Like you've got so many young, good players coming up. Like trade, I don't know where they end up. Maybe in like the
make a massive statement. If Tampa hasn't re-signed Stamkos, be like, hey, 1 year, $17 million. Play for us.
Yeah.
What's he gonna do? Say no to the by far the biggest contract for a single year anyone's ever gotten? Like, whoever the biggest free agency is, even if it's not for a term, throw your wallet at them, launch it out of a cannon at their face and say, you have to sign here. You can't not take this contract.
Yeah.
Like, make a statement that like, we are serious and like fucking pay attention to us.
Yeah.
They seem content to be in the background of the league most times. Like, force yourself into the limelight.
I don't want to go back to this but it's always fun. So if they win this auction, they get the land. How long do you think it takes to build that new arena? Like probably about
3-4
ish
years.
Yeah. Whose contract's going to be up in about
maybe 2 years, because I doubt they have very many days where they can't do construction in
that is true.
Arizona.
But... So argument's sake, say about 3 to 4.
Yeah.
That would mean Matthews' contract is kind of coming to an end again in Toronto because he didn't sign an 8-year extension there. Like, if you've got a good team in place that's, going to the playoffs, you've got this big brand new arena, that could be enough to, especially if Toronto
that place
doesn't
goes nuclear
do much.
Every time Matthews is there too. They love him.
And like if Toronto doesn't, get it done or doesn't, make it beyond the second round in that time, there's a chance maybe Matthews like, all right, you know what? I tried here. I'm ready. Like going back to Arizona would mean a lot to him, especially if they've actually got a good team. And
I want to play with last year's Hart winner, Clayton Keller.
Yeah, and like there's a chance Matthews could have even potentially been going to Arizona, and not re-signing with Toronto if maybe Arizona already had their arena situation figured out.
He doesn't want to play in front of 5K people.
Yeah, he doesn't want to go play in that little arena that's not good and doesn't have the best of. Like you got a brand new facilities and everything, new arena, great team packed arena. That could be enough to entice him. Again, I think it's largely dependent on how Toronto does over the next couple of years, but assuming they stick the course of what they're good at, we could be talking about this in 3, 4, 5 years.
Yeah, I would love for them to just absolutely nuts on the table and just like out loud be like, yeah, in 2 years, we're gonna offer Austin Matthews a contract. Like we're gonna do everything in our power to get him to come here.
Yeah.
And just like make it known. Put pressure on Toronto, because every time somebody puts pressure on them, they crumble.
Toronto fans couldn't even get mad. They did that for 2 years straight with Stamkos and Tavares.
Yeah. Like
it would just be someone's doing it to them and they wouldn't like it.
Yeah, I think they're entering a new era. Hopefully, we'll see when they if they get that land for the arena. And I think
step
it's
one.
They are so forgetful as a franchise at this point. I think they have to be bold. They have to be bold.
Yeah.
They have to go out there and do the thing. And they've got some really good young talented guys. And
Yeah, they do.
put some money into your development program. Make sure these guys are good. Don't let them go to free agency after they're underwhelming and then they go somewhere else with a good program and then all of a sudden they're a 40 goal, 90-point guy. Like,
Yeah.
they just need to put it together.
Yeah, it's
Pieces are all there.
gonna be an interesting thing to kind of see how that plays out now, because this, again, I really do think it's their last shot here. So they got to go out and bring it home for the fans that are continuing to support them despite everything that continues to go on.
Yeah. I believe we've got 2 things left here. One of them being Ryan Hartman was suspended 3 games earlier this week for throwing his stick, quote, at the officials after they lost to Vegas in overtime. Ryan Hartman was high-sticked late in the third period, right in front of the net. I believe it was Noah Hannafin. Caught him up right in front of the net, hit him in the face, went uncalled. Didn't get the call for that. And, I put the throwing his stick quote at the officials in there because that's how the refs took it. If you watch the clip, he's almost closer to throwing it towards the Vegas players and their goalie. He's obviously not trying to hit anybody, I don't think, there. But at the same time, I do think it is a bit of a, he walked halfway down the tunnel after overtime was over and then came back and lawn darted it onto the ice. I do think it was a bit of a, he was trying to get attention and, even if it wasn't exactly that dangerous in that scenario, he got the attention he was looking for, I suppose.
Yeah, he did get it. Like, if that's what he was going for, it worked. Yeah. I mean, it's one of those weird ones. Like, 3 games seems like a lot, but you know what? I also kind of get, like, you can't be kind of doing shit like that. But
yeah,
3 games does seem harsh. But again, I guess if their thought process is that he was he's throwing it to try and hit the ref or something, it's like, well, I mean, if you're targeting
after
the ref,
the
then
game, like, it's outside of play. You can't say it's any of that, right? So it's I do, even though it really wasn't, nobody was in danger from this. I do like them setting the precedent. It's the same as when a guy will do something from the bench to a guy that's on the ice. I want that guy to get 3 games minimum every time. I don't care what he does, because you're on the bench. You are a citizen. You are a pedestrian right now. You are not a hockey player until you are swapped on for another guy.
Yeah.
So, like, if I grab another player on the other team while I'm on the ice, that's holding. If you grab him while you're on the bench, it's in my mind, like, it's basically like assault. Like, you're not eligible for this. This is not within the sport. That's why they have the whole, if you jump the bench to get into a fight, immediate ejection and suspension, right?
Yeah.
Because
it's also like the new
Otherwise,
rule they brought in of
brawls.
Yeah. Well, it's also like the new rule they brought in of you can't be hanging over the boards or something when make a line change. Like, you gotta just go. You can't be sitting there hanging, waiting, which a big part of it was for ref safety. And I think this is also part of it. It's like, you know what, even though the fish wasn't clearly in danger, if it was if we don't want anything of this happening.
Shut down the shenanigans now. Don't let it become a narrative.
Exactly. So you know what? I'm totally okay with it. I know it's a guy like Ryan Hartman who, hasn't shown to be the most classy guy and respectful guy in terms of his opponents and
I didn't know he had that much of a history. There was a lot of people who were like, "Wow, who could have seen this coming?" Ryan Hartman being a meathead.
Awful.
Apparently, a lot of people, could have seen stuff like this coming from him.
Yeah. It's like, this isn't something that I saw that was like, well, that's out of character for him. I'm like, I mean, it's not like you expect it from him, but when he does, it's like, I can see that happening with him. So I mean, I'm okay with it, as you know what, if it's all part of, again, protecting the officials and whatnot. I've got no issues with this.
Yeah, and it's one of those things that, it looks a bit harsh, but at the same time, if they don't set that precedent, it's weird. We've seen a couple times in NHL history where if things like that don't get cracked down on the first or second time, all of a sudden it like creates this weird meta almost in the NHL where like you're allowed to do this stuff. And
Hmm.
for a good bit there, it was, a couple guys in a row got away with slashing on the hands, and then, Crosby smacked whoever it was on the hand and he ended up like losing a finger or something, right? Like
Yeah.
that all that was happening, and all of a sudden it just didn't get called, so it got out of control to the point where in the offseason they were like, okay, if we see you get on the hands, no matter what, don't care how hard you hit, don't care how your stick hit your hands, immediate either holding or slashing penalty. Like immediately and the game nowadays, that was only 10 years ago. Now you get on the hands in any fashion with your stick, you are in the box for 2.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter how lightly you touched them on the hands. Like that's, you just you can't anymore.
Yeah,
and
and
that's
not
good,
even
and that's
just
good for
slashing motion. If it's a hook, like if you get him on the hands, immediate hook. Like it's
yeah. Do we have anything else? Oh, one thing we
I
did
don't
not
have anything left on our list here.
We didn't have it written down, but I do think it's fair enough that we should talk about the line brawl between the New Jersey Devils and the New York Rangers.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, there's not many great angles of it out there.
I mean, we kind of knew
the broadcast only followed the Rempe McDermott fight when there was like 4 other fights going on. Like it makes sense, but can we get the wide shot, please? There's like 10 or 8 guys fighting on the ice at once. There was at least 4 fights
10.
at once. All 10.
No, yeah. There's all 5 guys on each side, resulting in 4 guys aside being ejected from the game because
2 seconds in.
It was the second altercation. The first fight that started, I think, was Curtis Lazar and Jimmy Vesey, which was the first one because it was right off the face-off. So those 2, that's the first fight. Those guys are fine, but everybody else fighting is like starting a second fight. So that is an automatic game misconduct. So like that's crazy.
That's kind of like what I was just saying with the the extra guys jumping into fights. That's why they have those rules. Extra fights, that's an ejection. So
yeah, and it's just weird. It's weird that like it was like a planned thing. Like the fact that it was Lazar and VC going first. Like the first fight wasn't just Rempe and McDermott. Like it was everything all at once, and it was.
So Rempe and McDermott were obviously going to fight either way. In fact, since then, Rempe's actually had an interview that was pretty good, where he was saying that they didn't say anything to each other before the game, not in warm up, nothing. And then they lined up beside each other, and McDermott goes, "We're going to fight." And he goes, "Yeah, I know. I had a feeling there was a reason that we were both out here to start the game," which is a pretty funny thing to say. But also, it makes a lot of sense with the history the teams have, with what went on with them last time they played, and they're lined up beside each other. They knew it was going down. I guess Lazar and VC just started chucking hands first, I guess.
Yeah, basically because the puck was dropped and they immediately kind of just went. So like that's technically
they must have been
fight.
They must have been the close fight to the wide camera, right? Yeah, because
and so
everyone else slowly drops their gloves and kind of gets into fighting stance. Those two are both like bent over, leaning on their sticks, ready for the face-off. Puck gets dropped. I don't even see them drop their gloves. They're just all of a sudden naked hands punching each other. Like they started fighting so fast, it's wild.
So so obviously McDermott and Rempe fought, and then VC and Lazar fought, and then Kevin Boa and Barclay Goodrow fought. And so those were kind of the first 3 fights that were happening.
Yeah, because I assume, those are all the forwards, right? So they're all beside each other.
Well, no, McDermott and Ball are actually both defensemen, but I think McDermott was just kind of up on the wing for it.
Then all that was for it. Okay.
So then all that was left over was Chris Tierney and John Marino for the Devils, both pretty on the smaller side of guys.
Yeah.
They look up who's left out there on the blue line waiting. Keandre Miller, who fought John Marino, and then Jacob Trouba was left with Chris Tierney. So
those are big boys.
I give a lot of credit to Tierney and Marino for doing it. Actually, Keandre Miller kind of looks like a huge clown. I mean, I'm not a huge fan of him to begin with, but he's like 5 inches taller, 200 pounds more heavier than John Marino.
Yeah.
And so obviously Miller wins the fight. Doesn't really bully him much. But then Miller does the whole little sit down little guy thing, like pushing his hand down. And then Miller goes on Instagram and starts bragging about it, posting photos of it, saying meet me in the alley with the troops. And it's like, you're way bigger than this dude. He didn't want to fight you. He felt like he had to. And now you're clowning on him.
I thought you were going to say he's a bit of a clown because he, went all out and won the fight as the bigger guy. And I was going to be like, if the small guy challenges you, you can throw hands. But
no, it's the bragging.
To sit there and take that much pride in that and be bragging is kind of weird. And
then
huge shout out to the Devils guys who both look across at guys way bigger, but go, hey, that's some pretty important defensemen in their lineup. If they're going to get ejected if we go and fight them, that might really make the difference for our team. Like, that's kind of fallen on the sword for your team a bit. That's kind of awesome.
And so then on and hockey Twitter is a great place. So then obviously Rangers fans are shitting on John Marino and ripping him for getting quote unquote beat up in that fight, and DeAndre Miller's now his dad. So this one guy said, I don't know if this is true. This guy does have a good amount of following, and apparently people are like, okay, so John Marino does have 2 Harvard degrees already. So he's like, John Marino has 2 Harvard degrees, and apparently his nickname in college was the female orgasm. I'm sure he'll live. So it sounds like John Marino's actually kind of coming up ahead in this.
Sounds like he's doing it right.
But honestly, I mean, when you're looking at it, it's like, and first of all, respect to them for going up against those bigger guys, but then it's like,
especially fighting Trouba,
trading off Chris Tierney and John Marino, who I mean aren't great players, but they're good players. But to swap them off for an entire game for Keandre Miller and Jacob Trouba, which knocks the Rangers down to just 4 defensemen.
Also, taking Trouba out of the game, that's just keeping Jack Hughes. That's keeping Timo Meier. That's keeping all your best players safer.
Yeah, safe.
If nothing else. So
I mean, I think it's
cool
to see line brawls every now and then. Yeah.
Did you see anything from the goalies? Because at the very end, they swap camera angles and show Shesterkin picking up his blocker.
Yeah, I was wondering about that. I never heard.
I don't know who was in the other net.
Probably Jake Allen. Would be my guess.
I wonder if they fight and there's already a fight going on, are they both kicked out?
Oh, it was actually Kakkonen. So yeah, no way Kakkonen would go and fight.
Would they have been ejected?
Yeah, because they would have.
Oh,
they would have. Get in there and backup goalies.
I would get in there, literally drop the gloves, maybe throw one punch. Hell, I'll throw it at the chest plate and then just hide behind the massive armor that is goalie equipment and get Shesterkin thrown out of the game.
Yeah, and that's the thing, right? Is that could have happened, and then you're
especially
sitting there
with 4 defensemen
now have to go in, and you've got one emergency backup goalie for both teams, so you've got a double chance for an emergency backup for an entire game.
That is a wet dream for guys like Jack Hughes, Jesper Bratt, like Nico Hischier. 4 of the really good, or I guess 2 of the best defensemen on the Rangers out for the game, and their top goalie. Boys, we're gonna be feasting on them tonight.
Obviously, the Rangers did end up winning, which I think was kind of what put an end to New Jersey's season. I think they're kind of a little too far out, especially winning out basically and having to rely on so many teams to all kind of lose. I think is a little tough for them now.
I think it was already looking really rough for them, but I do think there's a lot of nails in the coffins going around right now, and with them being how many games left do they have? 6. They have 6 games left, and they are 7 points out of the playoffs.
Yeah. So
7
it's
points
a
out,
tough,
and you can
a
only
tough
get 12
ask.
if you win out. And even then, if the Islanders win 3 games, you can't get that now. So
yeah. Yeah, it's not ideal for them. It's not ideal.
no, but they'll be back next year for sure.
Oh yeah.
They have a great team.
What
I think
you said you had something though that you wanted to.
Yes, I did have a little bit of a trivia thing to do here. So in front of me here, I have 2 lists. I have the current active NHL points leaders and the current active NHL goals leaders, all regular season, of course.
Okay.
We're just going to go through relatively quickly. This, we don't have to test your knowledge too much. We know you know the hockey, but we'll give you a little bit of time, and we'll just see if you can guess let's go top 10 on each list.
And wait, so what is this? Like just
So we'll start with the current points leaders in the NHL that are actively playing.
like all time.
Yes.
Like their total career points.
Yeah. Top career point guys that are still playing today.
Ooh, okay. And just the top 10?
Yeah.
Okay. So obviously Crosby is on there.
Yep, Crosby is number 1. 1,586. If he goes off the rest of the year like he has been, he'll hit 1,600.
I'm just trying. So many names come. Ovechkin is obviously in there.
Number 2, 1,544. The top 5 or 6 make a lot of sense to me. There's a couple guys I didn't expect to be on here.
Oh, I guess obviously Kopitar. Talked about him earlier. He'd be in there.
Yep, number 5, 1207. I believe I said 06 earlier. Did this actually update in real time?
Patrick Kane.
Patrick Kane is 4th, 1,279.
What number was Kopitar?
5. You've got 1, 2, 4, 5.
1, 2, 4, 5. I don't know why I said Drew, but actually I think Drew's probably on there. Actually,
Giroux is at number 8, 1,062.
So then Pavelski would be on there because him and Giroux hit 1,000 like a week apart or something.
Yep, and they've been scoring at a very similar rate. He is 7th with 1,064, 2 more points than Giroux.
I get Stamkos would be on there.
Yep, Stamkos is 6th with 1,124. So you've got no misses so far, and you don't have 1, 2, 3. You only have 3 left.
What am I missing? I'm missing
pretty
number
good job
3.
So number
3, 9, and 10.
Yes.
3, 9, and 10. Oh, Malkin would be on there.
Yeah, Malkin is he is number 3 with 1,288.
So this is all going to be guys.
9 and 10 are 1 point apart. It's kind of interesting.
1 point apart.
Yep. Almost 200 goals in difference, though. And 3 games apart. Wow.
Oh, Tavares would be in there.
Tavares is number 9, 1,034.
Who active players?
I suppose this is active players who have not retired. I don't know if that helps.
Active players who have not retired.
Not officially retired.
Not officially retired. Someone recent then. Is it Nicholas Backstrom then?
It is Nicholas Backstrom. I thought for sure you were going to say Kessel. I thought for sure you were going to say Kessel after I said
Kessel.
that. Although I do believe Kessel is not on this list. I don't see him anywhere in the top like 30. I believe he would be number 11 because he's like 5 points shy of 1,000. I think
Yeah.
he's like really close.
You know what? If you didn't actually give me that hint there, I don't think I would have gotten Backstrom.
Yeah. And I'm just going to throw out, I'm going to pick, you know what? Let's go 3 names. And just take a stab at it with numbers and just like, where do you think they are on the list? Let's go Connor McDavid. Where does he rank in the league? Like Backstrom was 10.
Well, if Backstrom's close to Tavares, and I know Tavares just like he hit 1,000 points this season.
Yeah.
And I know McDavid's creeping up. So McDavid can't be far back. So he's 12? 13?
Really, really good reasoning. He is number 11.
Oh, shit. Oh, so he's like just below Tavares and Backstrom.
Yeah. Backstrom is
wow.
1,033. McDavid is 976.
Oh, wow.
If Kessel was on here, I believe McDavid would have been 12th.
Vancouver fucked me.
Somebody's got to sign him.
Vancouver fucked me.
It was only for like 2 seconds, but that was the only thing that got me on April Fool's Day this year. I opened Twitter and saw Spit and Chickless posted that the Leafs signed Phil Kessel for League Min.
Oh, yeah.
And I pretty quickly figured it out, but for that split second, I was like, "He's back!" I was ready to be excited.
Yeah, that's one I did see, but I was like, "No way!" I didn't even really clock April Fools at the time, but I was like, "No way!" Because he wouldn't even be able to play in the playoffs. So I was like, that sign would make no sense.
Yeah,
unless it was like like he was retiring or something.
Yeah,
which I still don't even know if he. Like, I don't think Phil Kessel would go and sign a one-day deal with Toronto to retire. I think, if anything, he'd probably go to Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
Is there any other names on that list you wanted to?
Yeah, let's do 2 more real quick. Give me a Nathan MacKinnon.
Oh, McKinnon. 18.
He is 17.
Oh.
He is right.
So,
he is at 886 currently, right in between Zach Parise at 888 and Brent Burns at 877.
Oh, wow.
And the last one we'll do is the other Hart Trophy assuming finalist, Nikita Kucherov.
So Kucherov would be above McKinnon. I think. Would he?
It's hard to say.
And what number did you say McKinnon was?
McKinnon was 17.
17. So then he's probably at 14. He's probably right in between McDavid and McKinnon.
Nikita Kucherov is 19th with 859.
So he's not far back though, at least.
No, he's like 30 points back in like 70 less games. If he didn't miss that one entire season,
yeah,
like with the average he's been putting up, say he hits, his average of 105 points or so, he would be in like
14.
He would be like 12. He would be right behind McDavid.
12. Damn. Okay.
Right around Blakey Wheeler.
You know what? Yeah, Blake Wheeler. That would have been a tough one to actually guess where he would have been.
But now let's switch to doing it for goals. So probably
like it's a lot of the same.
There's probably a lot of similar names up at the very top.
Well, let's just start off the rip. Let's go with Ovechkin and Crosby.
Yep. 1 and 2.
Kane.
Showtime. Number 6.
Malkin then.
Number 4.
For active players, I think Pavelski's in there.
Pavelski's number 5.
Number 5. Oh, wow.
Yeah. 475 goals from big old Joe Pavelski.
The big Pavelski. So how many do I have left?
You have 1, 2, 4, 5, 6. Are the ones you
Stamkos.
have. Stamkos is 3, so you've got 1 to 6. So you need 7, 8, 9, 10. There's one name on here that very much surprises me. 2 that I'm kind of surprised to see, but one that that's a lot
Matthews
of
wouldn't be
goals.
up there yet. McDavid wouldn't. Draisaitl wouldn't. This is all like gonna be older players. I'm just trying to think of older players in the league that scored a lot in their prime. Corey Perry.
Corey Perry's number 10.
Corey Perry's 10. Okay.
I'm trying to think if one of these guys is even still active. It says he is. I don't know where the hell he's playing.
Oh, I guess Tavares probably is in there for goals.
Yep, he is 7th.
7.
451 goals. Congrats on hitting 450, John Tavares.
I don't think Zach Parise hit that mark. I don't know if he put up that many goals. More than Corey Perry, no.
You sure about that, bud?
Is Zach Parise on there?
Yep, he is number 9.
Oh, he is.
He has
wow.
6 more goals than Corey Perry.
Wow. That's actually really impressive. I didn't think he was up there.
In like 60 less games.
Okay, so now I got to use who is someone that you would forget about that's in here.
Like I wouldn't have got him if I got 30, 50 guesses. I honestly want to Google if he's even still active.
Hold on.
Yeah,
Who the hell would?
Yeah, okay, he's still going.
Who the hell? There's so many guys I want to guess, but I'm like, obviously they're still playing. So like that, who was a beast of a goal scoring machine in their prime?
Like this guy ain't even on my radar for this. And yet still 440 goals in his career.
Holy shit.
His buddy got a statue.
I
think.
Oh. I think I got it actually. And it's only because I'm currently watching the LA Kings play now. Jeff Carter.
Yeah, it is Jeff Carter.
Jeff Carter.
Would not have pegged him for 440 goals.
Yeah, no. When he was with Philly, and then when he came over to LA for their cups, he was like he was tough to play against. He was
filling the net apparently.
A goal scoring machine, yeah. Yeah, he's kind of been just hanging out with Pittsburgh, not doing a whole lot anymore, but
yeah, as soon as I Googled it and I saw the Penguins logo, I was like, okay, he's been there.
Yeah, it's not like in his prime he was, like a career, 50 a goal a season, 40, but like he was always, 20 plus consistently, or like 18 plus just throughout year after year, and eventually just kind of added up. But like, that one's not that is kind of surprising, but in all times he's like this is just active players. So
we'll pick a couple random other ones for you to guess as well here, just like we did with the points. Let's go with big man Cheeks, Austin Matthews.
Goals is so tough, man, for where they would rank. Cheeks,
I know he's a good goal scorer, but looking at these numbers, it's even more insane than I thought.
Cheeks. How much? Who was at the bottom of like the top 10?
Corey Perry with 427.
Corey Perry with 427. Ooh, 427. So Cheeks can't be too far behind. Because I know we were talking when he hit 350.
Give me a guess. What do you got?
16.
He is 14th with
14? Oh, wow.
362.
362.
362 goals in 555 games.
Wow.
That's got to be like 0.6 something goals per game. Like that's
actually kind of nuts.
Dude, buried.
Jeez.
For the other ones, let's go David Pastrnak.
David Pastrnak. I believe he would be less than Cheeks. And if Matthews was 14, you said. So Pastrnak. Actually, Pastrnak might be the 16. I'm going to go 16. I'm doubling down.
You are 2 off again. He is 18. He's only behind him by 15 goals. 347.
Oh, really? Oh, so it's a kind of a close.
Yeah. Actually, 16 and 17 are even tied at 349. That's Sagan and Giroux.
Oh, okay.
There's a couple guys right in there. And who do we want to go for this last one? Let's go Leon Draisaitl.
Draisaitl. I think he would be. Would he be?
These 3 are very consistently talked about as some of the best shooters in the league.
Yeah, and he's kind of been around, kind of similar to Pastrnak. So it leads me to believe he's either that 15 spot right after Matthews, or he would be the 19 spot just after Pastrnak.
Oh, you think he's right behind?
I don't think he got up to 11. Well, he's got to be right in there with him, I think. But now you're saying that, you make me second guess. So I'm gonna go with 20.
No. You go with your guess. I'm just confirming your.
I think 15. I think 15.
15?
I think he's just above Pastrnak, but just a little bit below Matthews.
He is 2 goals behind David Pastrnak.
He is behind Pastrnak.
Yeah.
Wow.
2 goals less.
I mean, like, I know Pastrnak had his 6 seasons, but like Draisaitl was.
Draisaitl.
I guess this year's a little bit different. I guess Pastrnak is outscoring Draisaitl this year, though. So maybe that's what really tips the scale.
I mean, that is the difference. He's only 2 goals ahead.
Yeah.
In like 50 less games for Pastrnak. Like,
oh really?
I didn't think he'd be up on Draisaitl that much in points per game or goals per game.
Pasternak's only got 7 more than Draisaitl this year. I thought the gap was maybe a little bit bigger. But I guess that's still enough to put Pastrnak ahead of him all time in goals.
Yeah. So looking at Matthews compared to guys around him is so funny. Like, they're all right there beside each other in goals. Jeff Skinner has 1,000 games even. So I guess congrats to... Oh, we already did congratulate Skinner on his 1,000 games. But Skinner's at
regular
1,000.
Season games.
Regular season. Matthews is at 555, and Jamie Benn above him is at 1,106.
Wow.
He's at like the same goal totals with like almost actually half the games. Actually
half as many.
Jamie Benn's.
That's crazy. That's nuts, actually.
Yeah. Dude is eyeing down Ovechkin and Gretzky.
Yeah, honestly. It's it's really Matthews just chasing Ovi's record at this point now.
Yeah. I was looking at it earlier. Ovechkin's stat line tonight is like the most Ovechkin thing of all time.
What did he have?
So first of all,
against Pittsburgh too.
Yeah, so this reads AI generated. So first off, the Penguins won 4-1. Ovechkin is a -2, 8 shots on goal, 6 hits, 1 power play goal.
That's prime Ovi numbers right there.
The only goal for their team is an Ovi power play goal. He's a -2, 8 shots, 6 hits. Like, he's literally...
Any penalty minutes?
No penalty minutes.
Oh, so not prime Ovi then. Prime Ovi would have got an elbowing or a boarding or something.
Probably a hooking while on the power play. somebody skated past him and he didn't want him there. But
That
it's just
actually
funny.
is like the most Ovi stat line.
Yeah,
Especially
just
against Pittsburgh.
I love seeing those memes of the guys like screaming like "Let's fucking go!" and the caption is just Capitals fans when they lose 7-1, but Ovi scored.
Yeah. You know, as long as Ovi keeps scoring, they're gonna be happy. That's really what they're cheering for now.
And 4 losses in a row, kind of falling out of that playoff spot.
Yeah, they're in a tough spot now. They've picked a bad time to go through a bit of a slump. I don't have anything else.
Yeah, I think we'll
lined up for us.
We'll hop into the scoring leaders here, and we'll wrap it up.
Let's do it. What do we got here now? Are these updated as of today's games?
I am just refreshing the page. They weren't before. Are we? I assume the Sharks Kings game probably isn't over. But
yeah, no. But the Kings are up 2-0 after the second, yes. So it's safe to assume that they probably
okay. Probably get those 2 points.
Yeah, I would assume so at least.
For the NHL scoring leaders, in first place we have Nikita Kucherov with 133 points. Good Lord. In second, we have Nathan MacKinnon with 130. And in third, we have Connor McDavid with 126. Panarin, Pasternak, and Rantanen all breaking at least 100 points at this point as well. So congrats to them. For goals, Austin Matthews, we got 63. Sam Reinhart with 53 and Zach Hyman with 52.
Couple of beasts right there.
Couple of beasts. For goalies, for goals saved above expected per 60, we got Connor Hellebuck with 0.524, Thatcher Demko with 0.423, and Jacob Markstrom with 0.301. Demko and Hellebuck are really quite a cut above the rest of the league.
Yeah.
In a lot of these goalie stats, and Hellebuck's even a good chunk higher than Demko, who's got quite a bit of ground on the rest of the league. So he's absolutely got that locked up. That Vezina for sure, I think.
I think so at this point now. I don't think there's any more. There's no more debates on it or anything. It's pretty, especially with the Demko injury. Like I think it's pretty wrapped up now.
Unless he really falls off and like.
I don't think so. Even with this many games left, I think it's
if
kind
Sergei
of
Bobrovsky puts up like 4 shutouts at the end of the year and Hellebuck collapses,
and Hellebuck allows like 10 against a game or something, then maybe, we can have that discussion.
It has to be pretty astronomically bad, but he's got it. And for save percentage, we got Hellebuck with a 919, Joey Decord with a 918, and Thatcher Demko with a 917. Joey Decord still getting it done over there.
Dude, he's actually been playing really, really well.
Yeah, like he's been outstanding for them, and it's weird because they've really shifted to a 1A 1B type thing with him and Grubauer as of late, and Decord's done nothing but put up great numbers. I don't know why they're going back to having them kind of share the net so much.
Yeah,
as of late, but I guess if they think Grubauer's doing really well, you know.
Yeah.
I guess.
One thing I wanted to do here before we wrap it up. So as of taking place next weekend is obviously the Masters, which is kind of the biggest golf event of the year. So one thing a lot of people in the hockey world like to do is they like to do an NHL green jacket, and it kind of goes on kind of similar to golf throughout the regular season and for the NHL. Which player is going to have the worst plus minus at the end of the season and take home the NHL green jacket? Spoiler alert, all of these players at the bottom only belong to 3 teams. So in first place right now is William Eklund at a minus 43. In second is Philip Zadina at a -41. In third is Philip Kurashev with a -39. In fourth is Connor Bedard at a -38. And in fifth place is Cam Fowler at a -36. So those are your NHL Green Jacket leaders in the final, 2 weeks now of the regular
fair
season?
Enough. And it's not even really saying a ton about those guys.
It's not.
It really says it about the team because those are the best guys on each of those teams, really. So
those are the guys that log the most minutes out of
exactly like
shit teams.
Like Connor Bedard, we're not sitting here saying Connor Bedard has eaten shit this year because he's -38. Yeah. It's because he's playing 19 minutes and 45 seconds per game on the Chicago Blackhawks. So,
and not to mention, every game they win, it's because of him. So
yeah,
you can't praise him when, actually, I don't know. I feel like maybe what I was about to say, people could argue again. So I'm not going to go down that road. I've learned my lesson.
We love an introspective king.
But yeah, that's always just fun to look at those.
And
numbers.
maybe going forward we'll start doing rookie stats as well. We could start doing like this year's kind of got blown out obviously with Bedard and stuff, but we can we could start doing rookie leaders for points and such going forward. I'll have that ready next time.
Well, and maybe not this season now, but going into next season, we're in a time now where, every season just has so many good, up and coming prospects, and a lot of some who, again, kind of get outshadowed. So maybe something will, and again, this is totally if you guys want to hear us, do this because it's something we could do, but maybe even doing something going into next season of every episode we save a 10 to 15 time slot where it's just a segment where we just look around the league and just look at a whole bunch of prospects, the guys who are, putting up the most points, who's putting up good defensive numbers, who's, blocking shots and whatnot. So if that's something you guys want to do and kind of learn more about a lot of the rookies around the league and what they do, I think that's something that we can definitely find a way to make that work.
Yeah, absolutely. And I did actually bring it up here. I figured why not do it now, right? Just list off the top 5 point getters as of right now in the league for rookies. Connor Bedard with 58. Luke Hughes, a defenseman, with 43. Brock Faber, also a defenseman, with 41 points. Logan Cooley with 39, and Marco Rossi with 37. A couple really good young prospects that have come up and done really well. I mean, especially like those top 3, that's a clear-cut top 3 for the Calder. Connor Bedard's probably going to win it, but
I don't know.
Hughes and Brock Faber, as defensemen.
I think it could end up being for the Calder. I think you could still be looking at Connor Bedard and Brock Faber. I think are the consensus 1 and 2. I wouldn't be surprised if Connor Zary sneaks in there. He's probably just outside those top 5 guys, but he's played, I think, quite a bit less than all of them.
Yeah, he's got 56 games. Looks like most of them have, 70, 71, 73, 74, 75. Connor Bedard, obviously, he has 61, so he's got less.
Well, and we already know he's winning the Calder anyways. It's just who gets to stand up on that stage with them at the end of it.
But yeah, 30 points in 56 games for Connor Zary. That's over half a point per game. That's like 0.53, something like that. That's nothing to sneeze at. He's a +12 as well. There's a lot of minuses from these rookies up here.
I don't think none of those rookies are going to the playoffs.
Brock Faber's got a +2, and he's got 25 minutes and 2 seconds of time on ice per game.
Yeah,
and he's a +2 as a rookie. I think there's a very legitimate argument for Brock Faber to be the rookie of the year, but I don't see a way they take it from Bedard.
Exactly. Actually, the last thing I wanted to do before we hop out of here, Brock Faber. So there's a large debate going on right now that started from the Spit and Chicklets podcast. So Brock Faber is eligible for an extension after this season.
Right, because he's not on the Coyotes.
Yeah, exactly. If you were Minnesota, what would you offer him if you were to sign him right away and not even risk him outperforming this season, next season, having to pay more? If you're able to lock him in on extension, what would you be offering him?
Is this what I'm offering, or is this the highest I am willing to go before I consider moving him?
What do you, both, I guess. What do you think is a fair price for him, and what's the max?
Yeah, what's a fair price? Like, obviously, I could say 8 years at $1 million, but
yeah. Like, what do you think is a fair price to give him, and what's the max you would be willing to give him?
How much did he have? A ton of like, did he have a lot of aura around him coming into the league? Did we know Brock Faber was going to be a name?
Really? Like, he was a second round pick, and I think he was more of kind of the kind of that B-level prospect when they traded when Minnesota traded Kevin Fiala to LA, because they got a first round pick, which I think was like 20th overall or something, and Brock Faber. So Faber, I think, was kind of the B prospect along with a first round pick that it took to get Fiala, and then he just continued to just grow more and more into this guy. Yeah.
Honestly, the way he's played and considering the workload he's put on, like, I think it starts at like right away. We're going 7 or 8 years, probably 8 if we can.
Yeah.
I think you go 6.5.
Really?
I think, and that, like, even if he stays at this, even if he does not improve at all but doesn't fall off, have a slightly over half a point per game defenseman who plays 25 minutes of ice time per game on average, and he's a plus. Like, he's that, every team wants that. And if the salary cap goes up, getting him at 6.5, I think that would be a steal. And that's a lot of money. I wonder if he would ask for more, because I think he probably could.
Yeah, because kind of the consensus around most people is like the high end is 9.5, the low end is kind of 8 to 8.5 for over an 8-year deal. Yeah, people, like especially with the like, a lot of people's arguments for everything is always like, well, the cap's going up now, and it's like, yeah, but it's like, I think a fair deal that I would like, if Faber said, hey, you know what, this is the deal I want, I would take and run, is I would do 8.5 per year for 8 years for Faber. I would take that all day.
That's a lot of money for a guy who hasn't played more than 1 year in the league, and he has been phenomenal.
But I mean, look at the contracts we've seen with like guys like, you know, the Jack Hughes, Jake Sanderson, even, you know, when you lock guys up to that.
But Jack Hughes, we knew was going to be an all-star in this league. You know,
but we didn't think he was, you know, when we first saw him, we didn't think, we knew like, yeah, he's good, but not many people thought he was going to be, you know, like, obviously this year's tough because of the injuries, but like, he's probably going to end up being a, you know, 115 to 20 point guy a season.
For a Hart Trophy.
Yeah.
I can't believe people didn't see that in him. Like,
but Faber's going to be
in his first 2 years watching him play, they weren't going in, but you could tell he was a special player. So I was very surprised when people were like, why are they giving him $8 million? Like, immediately it was like, this looks insanely good. But
I mean, I think Brock Faber's going to be contending for Norris.
I don't think that. I don't know if he's quite at that level, if only just because of the other top end talent in the league.
I mean,
I think he would consistently be on ballots. I think he would consistently get 4 to 10 votes for sure.
I think you could see a world where if he gets to that point where he can put up, you know, say 70 points, but he's playing that, you know, 20 minutes a night, and the defensive stats he's also putting up,
great defensive numbers,
could get there. Like, over time, I think the vote, maybe the way people vote would have to change, and it'd be like, hey, look at it as a whole defenseman, not just, oh, he put up the most points, so let's get to him. Like, looking at defenseman as a whole, I think you could make an argument for him in a couple years, but again, it really depends on the development in him taking another big step, you know, next year and continuing to build off this one. But
yeah,
you know, I think 9.5 is a bit, quite like a lot.
I mean, now we're talking about Nikita Kucherov money, right? Like, And I mean, obviously,
signed at different times though.
Yeah. Of course, if he signed a 8-year contract today, Kucherov would get a lot more than 9.5. But
yeah,
it's still tough looking around the league and being like, compare yourself to everyone else making that amount of money. At least some of them have to be comparable.
Yeah.
And
yeah, I mean, if you can get Faber in the 8.5, I think that's fine. I think especially
I think so.
The cap going up, and like when you've got a guy like that as young as, if you can lock him up for 8 years, like I think you got to do it. Even if it is an overpay, like the first or second year, and it could end up looking like a steal for years 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8, which Minnesota could really use given their cap struggles.
Yeah, if he can anchor that blue line with Kaprizov and some of their other guys they got coming up, we mentioned Marco Rossi, also from Minnesota, is in that top 5 for points by rookie. So
yeah,
that could be a nasty team in the future if they can lock him up.
Yeah. But with that, I don't have anything left to.
All I had was
before we hop out of here.
Standings.
Oh, the standings. Yes.
Standings quickly. We've talked about the playoff race, so I don't think we need to, but we'll read through the points anyway. In the Eastern Conference, with the Atlantic Division, we have the Boston Bruins with 105 points, the Florida Panthers with 101, and the Leafs with 95. In the Metro, we have the Rangers with 106, the Hurricanes with 101, and the Flyers with 83 points. In wild cards 1 and 2, we have the Tampa Bay Lightning with 93 points, and the Islanders with 83. And then just outside the wild card, we have the Capitals with 82, the Red Wings with 82, the Penguins with 81, the Sabres with 77, the Devils with 76, the Sens with 70, the Canadians with 70, and the Blue Jackets with 62. Over in the Western Conference, we got all 3 teams in the Central have now clinched the playoffs. All 3 teams in the top 3 spots for the Central. That being the Dallas Stars with 105, the Avalanche with 102, and the Jets with 98. In the Pacific, we have the Canucks, who are the only team in the Pacific to clinch, with 102, the Oilers with 95, and the Golden Knights with 92. In wildcards 1 and 2, we have the Predators with 92 and the Kings with 89. And then just outside, we have the St. Louis Blues with 84, the Minnesota Wild with 81. And then every other team here is already eliminated mathematically from the playoffs. The Kraken with 75, the Flames with 73, the Coyotes with 67, the Ducks with 54, the Blackhawks with 49, and the Sharks with 42 points.
Boom. Those bottom feeders.
Hell yeah. Somebody's got to get Celebrini.
Yeah, someone's got to suck more than the rest. So I think that kind of wraps up everything we've got for this episode now.
Definitely thought this would be a bit shorter one, but I mean,
the usual.
We know it all the time. We get talking hockey and it goes forever.
Just goes, and that's the beauty of it. But once again, we want to say thank you to everybody for tuning in to yet another episode of the Stick 'em Up podcast. As always, you can find us over on all of our socials, Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok. We are all on there at SEU Hockey. Come say hi to us. Come shoot us a message. Come talk hockey with us. You could be chatting with us for 2 hours straight and have the time of your life. That is always an option for you if you swing by the socials and join in on the fun with us, because we are always putting out hockey content wherever we can, and we want to talk with you guys and see what you guys think about the league and where things are going, and maybe some changes you want to see happen in the league.
Yeah.
But with that, thank you to everybody for listening once again, and we will see you guys next week.